Hello, welcome to the Arsaholics podcast. It's what day? It's Thursday, and we've just come off the back of a really, really fun game against Wimbledon. Um, so before I get into that, guys, how you guys doing? We've got Aaron and back.
Back.
No, actually,
Well, I didn't go
you
anywhere.
were there. You were here. It was Myers who wasn't here last
You
time,
said
right?
that so convincingly.
Yeah,
I
I
was
know.
convinced
I
that
even
I had been away.
Well,
we
you
got
have.
Yes, I'm
Well, you
back.
physically been away, right? You were in
I went
Amsterdam.
away. I went to
Yeah.
Amsterdam for work, which was fun. Which is why I couldn't make the game yesterday.
what kind of fun?
Lots of work fun. So which is why I couldn't make the game yesterday. So, but yeah, you guys were very much part of an exclusive club yesterday, right?
Part of the Susie Club. We also just got really wasted.
Oh, mate.
So we did not plan for this to happen. So we got to the game pretty early. Actually, we went and got some Vietnamese food, which Miles was like, "I'm not hungry," and then proceeded to eat a massive,
Couldn't even finish it.
plate. Yeah, exactly. We went to the Victoria afterwards, and had a couple of beers there. In fact, I think had a couple of beers there. That was fine. Actually, we were on the spirits, weren't we? So we did some spirits there. Went to the game. After the game, we ended up in the Gunners pub, and that was really fun. I mean, it wasn't that busy because of the time of after the game it was pretty late, but it was really good, and we knocked them back whilst watching the draw and seeing that we had drawn leads, and and then we ended up, before you knew it, it was basically 1 a.m. Oh,
that's half one by the time we finished.
Yeah, and then we were getting cabs home. How are you feeling, Miles? Are you a bit ropey?
No, I was fine. I was up early, so I've had about 4 or 5 hours sleep, so I was tired, but yeah, I was fine. I can handle it, man. I don't know about you,
but... big talk. But let's talk a little bit about the game, because like you said, exclusive club. It's really weird. It was one of the first games in ages that it hasn't been live broadcast apparently anywhere. Mm-hmm. So there were cameras there taking highlights. I think Sky Sports News did live goals, I want to say, but the game wasn't live broadcast. So it really felt like a bit of a throwback to an era where the people who were at the game were one of the only people who actually knew or had a clue about what went on at all. So do feel sorry, obviously, for a lot of our fans around the world who didn't get to watch the game. I guess Arsenal versus AFC Wimbledon in the League Cup isn't necessarily the top of everyone's wish list, so probably people aren't losing sleep over that. Although, I mean, Miles, did you find it surprising about how good the atmosphere was, getting to the game inside the stadium?
Yeah, I mean, when we were walking in or walking up to the stadium, I was saying to you, I didn't think it was going to be particularly loud. I thought it was going to be a game. I thought it would be a game where a lot of people going to their first game, considering availability of tickets and the prices. People might bring their kids, even though it's a school night, and that was the case. But I was wrong. I was completely wrong in terms of the atmosphere. It was surprisingly good, and yeah, like the crowd really got behind the team, and yeah, like. It wasn't the most, it wasn't one of these games where Arsenal kind of put in a 10 out of 10 performance and they were rampaging forward, especially in the first half, and I think a lot of people turned up expecting to see more goals and a more convincing performance. But despite that, in general, it was good. And it was really nice. I think I tweeted this and we were talking about it. It was nice to see so many new faces. Like, we got to our seats and I sort of tapped on the shoulder and I said, have a look around. Do you recognize anyone around us? And I mean, pretty much couldn't, in a area of the stadium where most people are season ticket holders, North Bank lower, couldn't really recognize anyone. So all of the usual faces were replaced by new ones, and it was nice. It was nice.
It was just in sheer sight. I think we had 50,000 people, and it really felt like it wasn't like a fake number. Sometimes you're like, that definitely wasn't 50,000 people, but it was a packed stadium. And, one of our friends, Kish, he came to the game with us. He's a Crystal Palace fan. He just could not believe it. Like, when we were walking up to the stadium, he was just speechless. He was like, how have you got 50,000 people to turn up to a League Cup game on a Wednesday night against AFC Wimbledon?
That's I mean, it's where the club do really well when it comes to the pricing of the tickets, because it was 10 quid or whatever, 11 quid once you add on fees and stuff, I think, for our seats. And they've always done that, or not always, but in recent memory, they've always lowered the price for these early rounds of the League Cup. But normally, kind of in the Wenger era, they've lowered the price on the basis that it's going to be the youth team playing, and that wasn't the case. It was a second string, but it was still a pretty well experienced team, and some big names out there as well. So yeah, kind of value for money from that kind of perspective as well.
Yeah, agree. I mean, let's talk about actually the game itself. We've got the North London derby to preview. I think we want to spend the most amount of time talking about that, but it is worth reflecting on some stuff about the game, right? And so if we talk about the selection that you touched on, Mize, it's interesting because to me, when I looked at the team that came out, it feels like there's a very obvious second string that's established. There's an obvious backup left back, backup centre backs. There's that kind of happen. But it was interesting seeing Thomas Partey start the game. I mean, what did you think about the lineup overall, and any surprises, guys?
Well, yeah, I was going to say Aaron, why don't you?
Yeah, I think I was surprised when you're like, well, what is like one of our best players doing in the lineup right before a North London derby? But it kind of makes sense because he hasn't really played that much. And yeah, there is a risk of an injury, but ultimately you want your players fit and, in the rhythm of, making 90 minutes, because I don't think Partey's completed 90 minutes, although I don't think he did yesterday either, right? But I think after the game, Arteta explained it, that he wants players in the rhythm, playing, finding form, and based on what I saw, it looked like he had a pretty good game.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I thought in the first half he was, the best player on the pitch, I think, by a country mile. I mean, let's summarize the first half a little bit. I mean, it was 1-0, the Alex Lacazette penalty. Overall, how did you feel that we performed?
Considering the opposition, I wasn't all that impressed. It was I think I've said this term or used this term or word to describe our performances a lot in the last, or since we started this podcast, but it was a fairly flat performance. I think I watched back some of the highlights, and maybe that's a bit harsh because I think there were a few openings that maybe we didn't see properly because of, well, we're obviously down the other end during the first half. We're at the end where Wimbledon were attacking. But yeah, I didn't think it was a fantastic performance or a fantastic first half. The move to win the penalty was really, really good. And Niketa playing as a number 10 and putting a really lovely through ball. So that was nice to see. I'm trying to think of how many other chances, or many other chances. I think there was one where there was like a scramble in the box with Cedric had a shot. So, but I guess in a game like that, with lower league opposition, you expect us to exert our dominance and really show what we're about. Because, like I said, it was a second string, but there was still a number of really good players. And the other thing that we were talking about, Raj, is a lot of these players all of these players, probably apart from Thomas Partey, are on the fringe of the first team, and their kind of mindset should be, I'm going to put in a really good performance. I'm going to go and impress the manager and give him something to think about. Maybe not for Spurs, but for future Premier League games. And I'm just trying to think. I can't really think of anyone really doing that in the first half. And the other thing I would say is the Martinelli down the right didn't really work for me. And again, I'm probably contradicting myself a bit because he won the penalty, and it was a good run through. It was a good run for the penalty, but he didn't really seem. I don't know what's happened with Martinelli. I don't know if anything has happened, but it seems like when he has played or has had minutes, that kind of explosiveness that we saw when he first joined, haven't really seen it as much recently. And yeah, I don't know if playing on the right really helped with that, but yeah, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh.
I don't think you are being harsh, because that was definitely a takeaway of mine. I certainly didn't think him on the right was that. I don't think it worked. I got a little bit of feeling that is he being overcoached a little bit, because that rawness that you spoke about, the kind of impact that he made early doors. We think back to some of those games, Liverpool away, like all that kind of stuff, when Klopp turned around and said he's the talent of the century. He just looked so raw, very Alexis Sanchez-esque in many ways. And now when he plays, it looks a little bit more rigid, a little less improvisation going around. Do you think that's down to Arteta, or do you think that is recovering from that big injury still?
I was going to say the latter. I think I don't know if it's recovering. I hope it's not a long-term it's like a long-term effect from that injury. And it wasn't just that injury, right? He had a couple of other setbacks post the big injury. I don't know if he's being overcoached. I think it's hard when you're at the game to assess a single player because you don't, obviously where we sit, you don't get that bird's eye view. So I'm not sure that's necessarily the case, but if we were watching the game on TV and I was able to watch him properly, then maybe be able to kind of answer that question. I'm not really sure what it is, mate. I don't know. I'm really not sure. It might just be a case of he's not in the team regularly. And you could argue that it's quite hard for some of these players to kind of come straight in and, again, put in a really, really good performance. And we're kind of still at the start of the season where some of these players are probably not quite at full fitness and match fitness, So I don't really know. I'm not really sure what the reason is.
Yeah, I think it's probably that one. He came back late from playing at the Olympics and didn't really, and it's a shame because I think if he'd had a pre-season, I think he would have really benefited because I think he'd just come back from the injury last season. I think having a proper pre-season where he could play 90 minutes would have been really beneficial, but instead he went off to play with Brazil. Yeah, he would have, been training well, but he obviously wasn't playing 90 minutes with the Olympic squad. And then he's come back and dealt with it in a way that he's had to come in and out of the pitch again.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. If we go on to the second half, and it's a very different second half, it felt. And that rawness that we've talked about from Martinelli, that energy, it really felt like Nuno Tavares had some of that. It felt like he had taken a couple of lines at half time, I don't know, some ecstasy, something, I don't know what, but he was a man possessed in that second half. Yeah. What did you think about his performance, Mice?
Yeah. I think he's impressed me every time I've seen him play. And he's obviously he's a very exciting left back. Hasn't really been hard to assess him defensively, but definitely going forward. He's clearly got, step overs and tricks in his locker. I'm pretty sure in pre-season, he scored in pre-season, didn't he? With his left.
Yes,
and it seems like, he's very comfortable getting forward, getting into the final third, putting in crosses. And yeah, we saw a couple of tricks and that pleased the crowd yesterday. So that was nice to see as well. So yeah, again, he's a really, really exciting player. I'm keen to see more of him as the season progresses. Obviously, I'm not, unless there's an injury to Tierney, we're not going to see him in the league. So, games like yesterday and both the cups are going to be kind of big for him. But yeah, really exciting player. It looks like another astute purchase,
Yeah, I think we do have to actually applaud the club in getting that one done because it's really hard to find a backup player, like to sign a backup, because you can't really guarantee them games. And with left back, assuming all goes well with Tierney, that he's going to be the number one left back for the next 3, 4, 5, 8, potentially 7, 8 years, right? So how do you then convince the young players to come in? We don't think you're going to play every week, but we still think you can realize potential at Arsenal. And we got that deal done for Tavares. And yeah, it should be commended. We should commend the club on that one because he can play these games and our left back can get a rest.
Aaron, do you think he also gives us an option if we do play 3 at the back with wing backs and how we sometimes play Tierney in the left centre back position in that 3? Does he give us a really good option on that left wing back side?
Yeah, because he used to play wing back for Benfica at times, didn't he?
I don't know. I can't remember.
I think he has played left wing back there. So, yeah, it's an option. I mean, playing wing back and playing left back are 2 very different positions at times. I mean, it depends on the system and the kind of intricacies of it, but they can be very different roles. And I haven't really seen enough of him. He reminds me a bit of I guess how we described Martinelli earlier. He's very raw. And, there was that moment against Burnley where I think he ran up the pitch and then decided to have a shot in the 90th minute. So, yeah, I really like him. I hope we can see him progress. And I hope we get enough cup games this season to give him a run because he certainly looks like he could have a lot of potential.
Agree. The other interesting thing in the second half, I think, with the subs, Smith Rowe comes on to an immense ovation. I think some of that was also to do with the demographics of the crowd. There are a lot of kids there, as well. And you've got Smith Rowe coming on, clearly a fan favorite, clearly someone that kids really kind of connect with as well. Huge ovation. Xhaka comes on, even bigger ovation. Amazing receptions those guys got. And they really changed the game, I felt, Mize.
Yeah, and I don't think it's been the first time. The energy that these guys bring, and maybe even more so than that, it's you clearly saw the level of the game, if that's the right term to use, increase when they came on. The standard just went up a notch. And yeah, like the kinds of players that they are, right? They want the ball. They want to take people on. They want to make things happen. They're not looking backwards. They're looking forward. So yeah, it just like I said, took the game up a notch. Gave us a little bit more, or a lot more in the attacking third for sure. And that obviously showed with the goals that we scored, after they came on.
And to be honest, I don't think there's too much more to be said about the game. I completely agree with all your points about those two players, Mize. Do we have to mention Eddie Nketiah's wonder goal to some degree, right? It was an amazing finish from someone who was pretty quiet during the game.
Yeah. Obviously got the not the assist, but he put the pass through for Martinelli for the penalty. But yeah, he had a pretty quiet game. And I mean, this is the thing with Nketiah, right? We've said it before. He's clearly a player that has goals in him. I know that's an obvious thing to say, but he just has that kind of instinct in front of goal. And he did get a few chances in terms of playing time last season. But he was playing in a team that wasn't really creating very much. And, this is going to be the interesting thing. And we were talking about it, Raj, afterwards, weren't we? What happens with Nketiah? Because I didn't realize that he hadn't signed a new contract. I just thought he had, and we were protecting his value, or we'd managed to do that. So obviously with him being out of contract at the end of the year, there surely is going to be clubs going in for him if they know they can get him in a free or a cut price fee in January. And Kish was saying you wouldn't be surprised if Palace came in and put, 5 million on the table in January or something like that. So like it's an interesting one to see what happens with him. But yeah, like it was a really, really good finish. I think I had to watch the replay to see it because I didn't realize. I mean, it was down our end of the ground, but I didn't realize he had scored that way. And I mean, look, if I don't know if trying to think of a player like if Aubameyang does that or a Saka does that, you're probably you go absolutely wild. So fair play to him. It was a really good finish.
Aaron, do you think that given that contract situation, given the fact that it seems like he's not going to sign a new contract, he's clearly not really that much in favour, were you surprised that Balogun didn't start instead of Nketiah?
Yeah, yes and no. I think Arteta really likes Eddie, which is why I think he's starting. I think ultimately, yeah, if you're looking in terms of the best long-term interests of the club, it makes far more sense to give minutes to a player we know is going to be there beyond the end of this season. But I think Arteta is a guy who seems to reward hard work and work ethic and things like that. And, especially when, you remember when Eddie came back from loan at Leeds and we were going to, I think, loan him out again or try and sell him, but he really impressed. I think it was Arteta was around then. Yeah, Arteta was around then. And he said, look, I was going to loan him, but he really impressed him. And actually, like when he came back, he wasn't actually that good and he didn't really do much. So with hindsight, we probably should have sent him on loan. But Arteta does seem like the type of guy who really rates him and rates his work ethic and is rewarding him for that with minutes. And ultimately, if there is a situation where we need a third striker, because something happens to our first two, or we need to bring someone off the bench, Eddie is the third choice striker at the club. He is the one who's more likely to go and, come up with a goal in the last few minutes to save a result or get us a win. Because Balogun, as much potential as he has, doesn't really have the experience yet. So it's important to have him fresh. It's important to have him like sharp and finishing well. And this is really encouraging. I don't think the club are thinking too much about the value. I read somewhere that if he does go for free in the summer, would be entitled to like
payment because of the training. Yeah, okay.
The training, and apparently that could be as high as something like 10 million.
Okay.
So
it would surprise me given that he only joined us when he was 15, 16.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the maths work, but I think someone was saying that when Danny Ings left, he got 10 million, and Eddie is like England's youth, the highest academy scorer. Therefore, you would expect similar levels there. Again, take that with a pinch of salt because I don't know how true that is, but I think that's probably why the club aren't too worried about that. I think if in January a decent bid comes in, we should absolutely cash in, but maybe there's something there that probably explains why we aren't too worried about that.
Yeah, and I think that we need to devote a lot of time to discussing the striker situation at some point because his contract is coming to the end. Lacazette's contract is coming to the end. Aubameyang's not getting younger. That's a huge topic for us to talk about. But right now, let's switch focus to the North London derby, lads. I mean,
yes,
I think I speak for us all when I say this is the one we look forward to the most as fans. It's just an incredible day. Are you guys looking forward to it? Tell me, how do you feel?
Yeah, I can't wait. Like you said, this is the one. This is why we have our season tickets, is to get access to this game, pretty much. And it's going to be good. The narrative and the narrative of this game is quite interesting, given both clubs, first 4 or 5 games. It's because obviously we came into this on the back of the 3 defeats, and we've sort of at least turned it round by winning our last 2, whereas Spurs started off well, but seemed to have dropped. But even though they weren't really playing that well all season. So, if we do beat them, and I think we will, then, that almost completes the turnaround somewhat, and is actually, when you look at where we will be in the table, I don't know where we'll end up. We might even sneak, 11th or 10th or something like that if results go away. That does show at least that we're starting to progress from the disastrous start that we made.
There's talks, let's say. There are some Spurs fans who feel that given the trajectory over the last few games, given how games have actually gone when you break them down, they feel that Sunday is a huge game for Nuno. As in, if he loses, he's under pressure. What do you guys think about that? Well, see, what it sounds like, we're talking to a lot of Spurs fans who are actually watching their games, is, even when they're winning 1-0, and accumulating points, as much as it was good getting those results, I think they all felt that it was almost like a disaster waiting to happen. It was Mourinho 3.0 type football, and a manager who, was almost content on being very, very conservative. And ultimately teams would exploit that at some, like Crystal Palace ended up doing. There's obviously also a case since then. If you look at their team, if you look at the lineup, pretty much since the Palace game, I'm not sure Nuno knows what his best team is. I don't know if he knows what his best combinations are. There's obviously been, various issues that they've had with quarantine problems when, they had a number of players who went to South America. Harry Kane is having a very, very weird situation. And I think people are looking to Nuno to sort of say, or hang on a minute, do you need to stop the rot? Do you need to nip this in the bud? Because aside from those, those results, which I think are important at the beginning of the season, it feels like Spurs fans have just felt that there's not that much to go on.
I mean, I'd be very, very surprised, even if we say win 3-0 on Saturday, if Levy or the Spurs hierarchy decide to sack him after what, 5-6 league games, whatever it is. If you think about the process that they went through when trying to get a manager in the summer, and the number of candidates they went to, and who ended up turning them down, I'd be very, very surprised if they would want to go through that again mid-season. And it's still early. It's still really early days, right? Even if they lose to us at the weekend, they've had an all right start to the season, but beating City and then winning another couple of games after that, albeit I think they won both of them 1-0 after that as well. there's I can't see them sacking, and maybe that's just the Spurs fans' frustrations coming through. I don't know what they're expecting, because I don't know why their expectations are so high. Basically, it seems like they're still thinking that it's like us when we still have that expectation that, well, we should just be a top 4 team, or we should just be challenged for the league, but not really, not anymore. Like we have dropped considerably, and maybe they have as well. But yeah, I mean, Aaron, and just to follow up on what you were saying as well about the game itself and kind of how both teams come into this, like it's really interesting, because it feels like it's a game that it's like could be a pivotal game for both clubs in their seasons. Like for us, for obvious reasons, if we do go and win, it's like, okay, we didn't just beat Norwich and Burnley 1-0 with pretty average performances, but now we've gone and beat a decent Spurs team in a game in a derby that you could never really predict. And that gets the fans back on side. It probably takes the pressure off Arteta completely, I think, for the next few months. And it's almost like, you could easily see form and a run being put together, and form kind of really, really improving from that point. So, and equally for Spurs as well, it's kind of like what you're saying about Nuno. It's almost like if he goes and wins at the Emirates, again, all the fans are back on side for him, and he's going to give them a boost and all of that. So it feels like it's one of those games where there's a lot riding on it, even though it's so early in the season, and that just adds to the occasion, really, doesn't it?
No, I think you're spot on. Ultimately, football nowadays is all about the narratives. And if Arteta, and I said this a while ago when we looked at these 3 games after those first couple of 3 defeats, it was pretty much down. This is like a cup final for Arteta. If he wins this, he almost certainly isn't going to get sacked before Christmas, I don't think. But if he loses this, the narrative then becomes 4 defeats in 6 games. And then he's under pressure again, big time.
Well, given these narratives, given this pressure, is this a game where both managers would rather just not lose?
I think as the home team, like the fans are back for the first time at a North London derby in a couple of years or whatever. I can't see, like, we've got a fully fit squad pretty much, I just don't, there's no excuses to not go out and win the game. Like I said, we won the last 2 games that we won in the league with not great performances. Before those 2 games, I said, look, I'm happy to just get the results and kind of build from there. But I want to see some of the bigger guys, the bigger players, the more senior players, the Aubameyangs, the parties kind of step up on Sunday and, take the game by the scruff of the neck, as it were, and try it to dominate. And I don't know. You can never go into a game, like, it's a age old saying, right? You can never go into a game trying to get a draw. Like, it just doesn't work. It's just not a good tactic. Just going to go horribly wrong.
Also, we don't really set up that way. You can't really say in the last 4 or 5 games that we've set up for a draw or we've set up for a win. Like maybe against in the last game when we played that 4-3-3 with, Smith Rowe and Odegaard in front of Partey, that was a bit more of an aggressive lineup. But I can see us playing a very similar team on Sunday. And even then, I don't think that's setting us up for the win. It's about, us playing our football and hoping we can break down the opposition, which is usually the type of football we always play.
So you guys see us sticking with the 4-3-3 and the same names? No?
I think he'll go. I think he'll bring Xhaka back. Xhaka Partey.
I forgot he's back.
I really do want to talk about that. Like, that's an important. So Xhaka's been out suspended. We've won a bunch of games. I'm not saying that that's just because he's suspended, but we have been winning games. And does Arteta face a massive risk in terms of starting him? Because it feels like if he starts him and if it doesn't go well, the focus is going to be again partly on that decision on Xhaka playing and why did the manager do it? So do you think that that might prevent?
What do you think, mate?
I don't think he'll start him.
No,
I don't think he'll start him. I think that I think that he does. He clearly likes this 4-3-3. He experimented with it in the second half, brought it in the second half of Norwich, played it against Burnley away. I think that he wants that to be like our modus operandi, and given everyone's fit, because here's the issue. I think that we can't play that 4-3-3 unless we have all of those players, particularly in that top 6 positions. Unless they're all fit, I think it becomes hard. And because they are fit, I feel that he'll do it. Because I think if you put Xhaka in there, you can't play that formation.
No, yeah, you can't.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a big call either way. I hope he doesn't, because I really do think it's time just to move on past Xhaka now. And let's use him. Let's phase him out of the first 11 and turn him into a squad player that comes in when needed. Now you can argue about should we have given a new contract to someone like that, and that's a different question. But if Arteta hasn't learned his lessons from trusting Granit Xhaka, and he plays him, then you can't blame fans for turning on him if we then lose, because it's imagine if he does do something wrong on Sunday and he costs us, he gets sent off again. That'd be crazy if he gets sent off again, but or he just gives the ball away, or gets tackled and loses the ball in a good area. The pressure will be right on Arteta. Whereas if, let's say Smith Rowe loses the ball, and Spurs score, the pressure, it doesn't really affect Arteta that much. So sometimes I think you need to play the psychology and the narrative as well as the kind of the game and the best team tactically.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when the teams come out an hour before kickoff, and if when we're together in the pub or whatever, or, the ground, and we see he's playing just Partey in the middle, and the 4-3-3 basically, I'll be buzzing. I'll be so happy, because he'll be demonstrating something that we haven't really seen from him, Arteta. That is, in terms of he's being a little bit daring, taking a little bit of a chance in a huge game, and he's kind of like it's a sign of intention, that he's going to kind of go for it. But I think we talked about this a couple of episodes ago. Like, it's just going to be so tempting for him to just go back to what he knows or what he trusts. Whether he should trust it or not is questionable. But I think it'll be. I think it's. I don't know. I could see it being a really difficult decision for him. But it's going to be. It's got to be so tempting. It's got to be so tempting to just go, look, let's just keep it. Xhaka. Put Xhaka back in, and we know what he does when he covers Tierney on the left. We know Tierney's going to be bombing forward, so it gives me that kind of protection, and a kind of what everything else that he brings. He's a safe player 90% of the time, basically, in terms of his passing.
Well, that's the problem, though, isn't it? Is that 10%?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've talked about it so many times, right? We're all in agreement that it's the 10%. That's the reason to move on from him, like you said, Aaron. But I guess as a manager, if you've got someone like that in your squad, probably, and he's a good trainer and he's good in the dressing room, all the rest of it, then maybe.
Yeah, I think now you put it that way, I actually think he's probably going to start.
I mean, what I would like to see, if he doesn't go for the 4-3-3, is then just play Partey Lokonga and give Lokonga the reward for how good he's been so far this season. Like, that's what he should do, in my eyes. If he's not comfortable going 4-3-3, Spurs have still got really dangerous players. You might want to have that extra central midfielder, kind of sitting. And that would be understandable, but then I'd rather that was Lokonga. And we could really see what he's about. You could really see, like, and again, like you said, fans won't get on his back if he does that and we lose. I mean, fans are always going to get on your back if you lose a North London derby, but do you know what I mean? Like, he's tried something different at least. So
it'll be interesting. And I guess part of it could be about how Arteta thinks Tottenham are going to line up. A lot of Tottenham fans I've spoken to recently kind of have been talking about injuries and suspensions and that being an issue. I looked it up, actually, of what it looks like for the North London derby. They don't have many players out, actually. Bergwijn looks like he's out, but I think he may still make it. Moura is out, and Sessegnon is out, and Sessegnon doesn't start for them anyway. So it would seem like
Ryan Sessegnon.
No, he was in the left back that they signed from Fulham, Steven Sessegnon.
Ryan Sessegnon.
Ryan Sessegnon is the older brother, right?
Oh, they signed. No way.
No, hang on.
The dude from Fulham,
It's Ryan, isn't it? They
Yeah.
signed someone from Fulham like a couple of years ago, and he was like really good in the Championship.
Yes, it is.
I
Ryan.
assumed,
It is Ryan.
It was Ryan. Yeah.
It is
But
Ryan.
I thought he'd left Spurs ages ago. I didn't even realize. Okay, well, it's not. There's not.
No, Stephen. Stephen Sessignon.
Is he still at? I think Steve is because his young. No. Yeah, his younger brother is probably still at Fulham then.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's not really that interesting, but yeah, okay.
Clearly, so the Fulham holics are laughing at us right now.
There you go. I feel really bad. Yeah, but those three are the only ones it would seem like. But I think still there's this issue about him not knowing what his best side is. How much do you think Arteta will just smell blood here, right? Because they've got, if you look at their recent results, they've had Palace where they got battered 3-0. They went to Rennes and drew 2-2. They got battered by Chelsea 3-0. They've just had Wolves in the League Cup, which ended up going to penalties. It's really tough 4 games, right? It's not, you can imagine Spirits, if they had lost on penalties yesterday, you would imagine the Spirits would have been even, more. I wonder if winning on penalties has, helped Spirits still, but still, look at those 4. Those aren't 4 great, results over the 90 minutes. Do you think, therefore, Arteta will look at it and go, right, I've got to do it. It's there for the taking.
I hope he does, because ultimately we started this season with ambitions of pushing for top 4. Now, whether we'll get it or not is a different question. But if you want to push for the top half of the table, top 5, top 6, whatever it is, you need to go out and win your games against big clubs at home. And Spurs are definitely going to be right around us in terms of league position finishing. So, be ambitious. If you can't go for it at home, when can you? There's no point in playing for a draw. Playing for a draw on Sunday?
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's talk about one man who is a constant thorn in most people's sides, but particularly our side. I think he scored 11 goals in 14 North London derby appearances. Harry Kane. He always seems to play a blinder against us. He always seems well up for it. And I guess that's probably why Spurs fans love him in these games. And he's a guy, though, who at the moment is not going through the best of times, right? We saw against Chelsea, pundits really hauled him over the coals. They really, really, really were scathing about his performance against Chelsea. Allegedly looked disinterested, not really making an effort, should have been hauled off the pitch, blah, blah, blah. What do you think, guys? Do you think that it's a North London derby, he'll raise it, or do you think that this is a problem that Tottenham have with Harry Kane at the moment?
So I can't believe I'm saying this, but I thought Sky were actually quite harsh on Spurs against Chelsea. Mainly because, we saw it. Chelsea are considerably better than Spurs. They've spent considerably more. Chelsea winning was the most likely result. And I know, and it's very hard to look good against that Chelsea defense and that Chelsea team. We saw it, we look rubbish. It doesn't mean all of our players are rubbish. So I think to draw on that was a bit extreme and a bit harsh from Sky. That said, he didn't look good in that game. And he's looked okay, but Kane always starts the season slowly. There was that thing where he, for a while, never scored in August, right?
Yeah.
And I think maybe 1 or 2 seasons ago, he finally broke that curse. But the only thing I was thinking was stop this, because don't motivate him more for Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think, as the saying goes, right, form goes out the window in a North London derby, and I think that's going to be the case with Kane. I mean, Raj, was your question alluding to, has he stopped playing for the club kind of thing, in the sense of he obviously wanted to move and it didn't happen, or they didn't let him go, and therefore he's kind of throwing a bit of a strop on the pitch? Because I didn't see the Chelsea game, so I didn't see any of I haven't seen any of the post match stuff about it, so I can't comment on it. But is that kind of what they're saying?
I mean, essentially, I don't think he's been very good this season. Yeah, I mean, yes, and Aaron, you make a very good point. Sometimes he is a slow starter, but he has got that whole narrative hanging over his head, right? About quite clearly wanting to leave. He wanted to leave. He wanted to leave the club. Fans know it. His teammates know it. His manager knows it. And he's now putting on a bit of a brave face. I'm professional. I'm this, that, and the other, but whatever. But it probably is a little bit annoying. And he's just a human being. And as much as these guys are professionals, I imagine it's still affecting his motivation somewhat. For me, it feels like if Harry Kane's on the pitch and Harry Kane isn't playing well, that really affects Tottenham.
Yeah. I mean, I'd agree with that, but I can't see him like the guy loves scoring against us. He doesn't like Arsenal. Well, for whatever pictures you see of him as a kid, celebrating whatever trophy win that was at the time. But I just can't see him coming into this game with any other kind of mentality than I want to score. Like, isn't he the record scorer in North London Derby or something? Yeah. And I'm sure he's just going to want to like add to that. And also, like, he's obviously and I don't mean this as a criticism, but he's a selfish player. Like, he's obviously all about goals. Okay, not necessarily, because he does provide a lot of assists as well. But I know
what you mean. He's
and I'm sure, I don't know how many goals he's off the Alan Shearer's record for top Premier League goal scorer ever, but I think he's like within reach, isn't it? I don't know, but like, I'm sure that's, if he's not going to win a trophy then in his career, then that's something that he'll probably want to try and achieve. And I just can't see, like, I think it just might be a case of, didn't he have an injury as well at the start of the season? Just might be, whatever, like, it's been a couple of games, it just hasn't happened. But I think, if you're going to be up for any game, it's going to be this one. So I think it's going to be, we should be very wary of Kane and the other threats that they offer. The obvious ones like Son, Ali, etc. Like, I don't think it's going to be straightforward at all.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that team, and Kane and Son are Spurs, right? They lose those two, they're a bottom half club, basically, because the drop in quality is huge.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because, but they've spent a lot of money on the squad, haven't they?
Who did they buy? Like, I don't.
Genuinely, so Romero was signed. I think that was a record for, how much was it? 50 million. It's quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
And Gill. So the Gill chap, right? Romero looks like he's now a starting centre half. I think he started the last two games. Gill, I think, they're trying to sort of ease him in. But let's not forget, like, players like Ndombele, like, how much he cost? He was the record signing. They spent money, and like, I mean, you're right. I thing is, I used to get wound up when people used to talk about Arsenal like this. When we had Alexis Sanchez, when we had Van Persie, people say, "Oh, you take them out of the team," and it, But that's kind of what happens when you have excellent players. Excellent players tend to be that important to your team. It's not that easy to have excellent players on the bench either. Only some teams are blessed enough to have that. But it is true. But I think, given these guys are fit, aside from Moura, you probably, I imagine we expect something along the lines of a Dele Alli, Harry Kane, Son kind of front three. Mm-hmm. That, guys, I mean, I'm sure you agree, that represents that represents the biggest challenge that our new look back five have had to deal with.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, so are you guys are convinced that Ramsdale's starting, yeah? 100%, like, no doubt.
It would be really bad management, in my opinion, if he drops him after 2 clean sheets.
Because three, isn't it? Yeah, that news about that news about he promised Leno to start the derby, was that just
that's nonsense?
That can't be true. Was it?
I mean, it just sounded it sounded ridiculous, but obviously came from somewhere. I don't know. Like,
well, the fact that Leno started in the League Cup as well kind of shows to me that he seems to be regarded as the number 2 now.
I think there's definitely kind of, I think, even a broader picture there, right? Like, because even this 4-3-3 or whatever, Arteta's always talked about wanting to play that formation, but not having the right ingredients and not having the right players. And now he's playing it. And partly you have to think that Ramsdale represents one of those ingredients with his distribution, right? And his assertiveness. He's a very assertive keeper, it would seem. We know, we've talked about Leno's strengths and that Leno's an incredible shot stopper. But, it feels like Ramsdale is forming kind of a key component in whatever kind of tactic Arteta's trying to play. This being said, what I found interesting about just sort of, I guess, skipping on from Ramsdale slightly, Callum Chambers, he didn't play any part yesterday. Do you think, like, do you guys have any thoughts of any possibilities of him getting a game against Spurs?
No,
I'd be surprised if he didn't go. At right, you mean right back, centre back?
Yeah, I mean,
anywhere?
right back, maybe. Yeah.
Unless there's like an injury we don't know about, I'd be very, very surprised if he didn't go with the same back five as he did the last league game. Surely Tomiyasu has to start, right? Like, no question. The guy's been unbelievable since he came in. So there's a bit. I didn't even really realize that until you just said it about Chambers didn't play. He didn't even come off the bench, did he? So it's an interesting. Hopefully, just hopefully no. Hopefully it's Tomiyasu.
How do you think the fans will react though if there's been a lot of hype in the fans at the moment about this back five, and I think a lot of the naysayers or pessimists or even realists to some extent are turning around and saying, all right, come on guys, we've only played Norwich, we've only played Burnley, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. If actually Tottenham expose, I'll just use the word expose for argument, if they expose this kind of back, can you see the fans getting overly concerned and reactive? I mean, it's not like Arsenal fans to get overly concerned and reactive, is it?
Yeah, I can, because ultimately this was supposed to be the season where we have, full week's prep. I know we haven't had this week, but Arteta gets the team on the training ground. It's his team. He can coach them how he wants, and they're his players, and they have the attributes that he's wanted. And we've spent a lot of money on this defense. And if it looks a shambles, and that's a big concern in my opinion.
Yeah. So last question for me, before I think we get into predictions, very simply, do you think any of the players that played yesterday against AFC Wimbledon, do you think anyone has given Arteta a selection headache?
No. Just thinking through who played, but
I mean, let's play devil's advocate. Oba hasn't been all that great. Lacazette scored a penalty. I know it's just a penalty, but does that? Do you see anything like that? I'm thinking even looking at some of the players who have been slightly off form. I was thinking even Kieran Tierney hasn't looked 100%. Tavares looked like he was on crack. So.
No, I can't see it. I mean, it'll be a massive call to drop a Tierney or drop a Aubameyang. I can't see. I think he'll just go full strength. And I think probably for me, the only question mark is what we talked about earlier in central midfield, and I guess the formation. Does he bring Xhaka back or not? Is probably the only. Yeah, I think that's the only thing that he might change. Other than that, I think it's going to be, full strength Aubameyang in, Tierney in, and the rest of them.
Superb. All right, boys. Predictions. I know we've been okay, I think, of late. I think one of us tends to have got the result right over the last few games. I remember there was a period where none of us were predicting any of the results correctly.
I went 3-0 for Wimbledon, didn't I?
I think you did, yeah, exactly.
Nice. I think I've ever got a prediction right, so that's my first time.
So we're on a decent run of ball. I mean, maybe Aaron, we'll go to you first then. I mean, what do you think North London Derby? You said earlier on in the episode that you think we'll win. Has this discussion changed your mind?
No, I think we will win. I'll go 2-0.
Oh, what kind of win is that, Aaron?
I think
scoreline's a good scoreline, but yeah,
I think it will be a bit like. I didn't see yesterday, but what yesterday seemed like, which was getting a scrappy early goal and then getting a late one, and nothing else really happening.
Okay. Do you want to go, Raj?
All right. I'm going to be fairly controversial. So I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be 0-0.
Okay.
I'm basing that on the fact that I still, if we look at the goals we've scored in the Premier League, one's been from half a yard, the other was a free kick. We haven't quite got it right in the Premier League, have we? Even against Burnley. I mean, your analysis. I think you were the only one who watched it live, Aaron. Talked about that kind of the attacking unit not looking cohesive. That concerns me, and I think as a result of that concerning me, I think Arteta will still put controls in place in the team to make sure that we're really, really defensively stable, because I think he will worry a little bit. And I think Nuno will worry about what losing the North London derby can do for them mentally, given their results recently as well. I think Nuno will come into this game and go, I just can't lose this game. I think that's his mentality. So I'm going to just go for a 0-0 based on that.
Okay. Would you say that's a good result for us?
No, I don't think it's a good result for us. No, because for all the reasons that we've discussed, I think, again, we should be ready now. Arteta's had his time. We're at home. We are more, we're although below Tottenham, like we are, form's on our side slightly, form's not on their side. These are games where I feel like we need to assert ourselves without any excuse. So I don't think it's a good result. No.
Okay. I'm going to go for a win. I think it will be 2-1. And I was thinking about it earlier. Maybe because I was still drunk from last night, I don't know, but I was super positive. I'm going into this game like really positively, and normally I don't. Like with North London derbies, I'm pretty cautious, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a feeling. I'm not sure what it is, but I think the fact that and we didn't really talk about it in this episode, but the atmosphere for this game is ridiculous. Like for whatever people say about Arsenal's not, the fans are not loud and home, the Emirates is quiet, whatever. That's completely not true. It's completely not true, and especially for a game like this, especially for North London derby. And I think it could make quite a bit of a difference, considering the players haven't had that for however long it's been, since before COVID. And I'm trying to think, even since we've come back to the ground, that the Chelsea game was a big one, but even then, this atmosphere will completely destroy what we had at Chelsea, or against Chelsea. And I think it might wake the players up a little bit, and I think it might give them a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a push, whatever you want to call it.
Early goal would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, even without an early goal, the crowd are just going to be rocking. Like the ground's going to be rocking. They're going to be well behind the team, and I think it potentially could really help us. And I just feel really, really positive about it. I'm really looking forward to the day. I'm really looking forward to Sunday. Like just going. And yeah, I want to go 2-1. I think I can see Kane scoring, like it always happens, but yeah, I think it'll be like a tight game, but I think we can edge it.
Yeah, because I would think it's predicting the score is one thing, how the game will play out is another. So do you see that 2-1 being a case of us going down a goal and a spirited comeback, or do you see?
I hadn't really thought about if we'd go down or not. I kind of picture it as being quite a tight game, so quite an even game in terms of chances, possession. Like with both teams have got their threats, and despite the clean sheets, I don't think both teams are great defensively. And yeah, I can see both teams having like decent chances, and it just being like a moment or a late goal or something that wins it. Yeah, but bloody hell, any win will do, right?
Yeah, I mean, with the derby game, absolutely. Okay, guys, I think we'll leave it there. I mean, I think we all agree we're super excited. I'm so excited. I'm actually going to Palace Brighton on Monday as well, randomly. So it's two big derbies.
Roger's taking Monday off.
Yeah, I'll take a Monday off.
Oh wow!
Didn't tell us. Yeah, no. It's Monday off.
Back to the Gunners pub, then, is it?
I think so, mate. I mean, let's be honest, guys. Even if you guys haven't got Monday off, if we win, I'm sure you guys are going to be up for having a few drinks, right?
Yeah, we're definitely up for celebrating. Yeah,
yeah, and as we saw last night, Mai's on a Wednesday night. I mean, he might as well up for it till. So let's do it, boys.
Well, a school night, mate. It's a bad decision. I'm so happy I didn't wake up with a hangover today. Tell you that.
Yeah, I was.
But it was fun. It was fun. It was good. It was good. It was good to catch up, man. Like, I haven't done that in a while, so can do it again with Aaron on Sunday after we beat Spurs.
Indeed.
Fingers crossed.
And Nero, should mention.
Nero.
Yeah. I hope is he coming?
Your guess is as good as mine, mate. I think he is. I think he's coming. Yeah. So
excellent. All right, guys. Everyone, thank you for joining us. We really, really do appreciate it. And obviously we'll release an episode after the North London derby. Let's hope we win, because they're always much more fun to record.
Yeah,
always much more fun to record when we win. So yeah, fingers crossed. Enjoy Derby Day wherever you're watching around the world. I'm sure I've never watched Derby Day abroad in a supporters bar anywhere, but from any of the footage that I've seen around, like the atmosphere is just incredible, wherever people are watching it from the world. So yeah, let's hope all of that energy like really, really kind of permeates into the stadium, and we do, as season ticket holders, do a good job of representing the fan base globally, hopefully, and yeah, spurring the team onto a win. So yeah, come on guys, let's do this, and we'll talk to you later. See you later, guys.
See you later. Bye.
See ya. Cheers.